guys, it's Terry. Welcome back to my channel. Wow, just wow. I am so totally overwhelmed by the response to my last video on dodging divorce, rebooting our relationship. The Facebook messages, the YouTube comments, the text messages, I'm just overwhelmed by the level of not only just the support, thank you, but also the number of people who've shared how challenging their relationships have been, not just recently, but in general. It seems like Zeke and I were not alone in getting to where we got to on that fateful day on January 30th. And I got a number of questions asking if I would be willing to share some more details. While this makes Finn totally uncomfortable because I'm going to talk about sex, it is something that I'm actually known for, which is being willing to talk about things that other people are unwilling to talk about, to put names to things, to try to normalize taboo conversations. And I'm hoping that in this, which is actually incredibly nerve-wracking, and this is the third time we've recorded the same video because we've been having technical difficulties, I'm hoping that this makes it easier for all of you to talk about things or, you know, express yourselves in ways that you may or may not have been comfortable expressing before. So, as I mentioned in the last video, January 30th, Zeke and I came to the mutual conclusion that we needed to call it quits on our marriage. We've been dancing around it for years, and one of us would get there and the other one would say no, the other one would get there and the other one would say no, and for some reason on January 30th, we were both there at the same time. And as I also mentioned in the last video, the week following was one of the most agonizing of my entire life. Usually I'm a silver lining kind of person, and that week I could not see anything positive coming out of it. All I could see was loss. I was totally grieving for the relationship, totally grieving for what I thought our relationship would be, our marriage would be, what our family unit would look like. And I was having to let go of all of that. And in retrospect, it was an incredibly helpful and therapeutic time, even though it was so incredibly painful. So by Friday of that week, I finally got to the point where I was starting to see some positive things that could come out of it. And on the Saturday, I remember going to go play tennis. It was a gorgeous day. I had some great music going. I had the sunroof and the windows down on my car. And I just felt the color coming back to my life. Now, I'm a pretty vibrant, dynamic person, but I'd felt kind of gray and dimmed for, a number of years. Could have been perimenopause, could have been the relationship, could have been, at that point, the pandemic, or a combination of all of those things. But I felt like I'd lost who I was, and I felt on that Saturday a brightening. And I thought, I want to reclaim who I was in the world and who I want to be in the world. And so I thought about, as my body was waking up, I was like, what is it that I want? And I was kind of thinking, it was like, well, if I'm going to be dating, I need to get back into shape, and I want to make sure that all my parts are working. And I thought, well, I want to have sex. So I asked Zeke that night, and I was so nervous about it. I was like, would you be interested in having sex? No strings attached. We can't date, COVID and everything else. So, what do you think? And he was somewhat reluctant or hesitant. Eventually he agreed. And so for every night thereafter, for a while, we met up in the bedroom at 10 o'clock at night. And I did a bunch of research and listened to podcasts like Sex with Emily to learn about things that we could experiment and explore with and be curious about with, like, sex after 50. And that's one I'll do probably another episode on, or another conversation, because as I was doing the research for my book, Piloting Your Life, one of the things that I was reading over and over again was just how freeing sex after 50 is. Kids are generally out of the house. Your body has changed. You don't have to worry about pregnancy. And, you're just not as tied into social expectations. And I have to say that I can anecdotally add to that it's been absolutely fantastic. But what we discovered accidentally is that we really enjoyed spending time together. We got to be curious, we got to explore, we got to experiment, we got to be vulnerable with each other, and we learned to trust each other. We learned how to communicate. And slowly over a couple of months, relearned why we fell in love with the first place, but we kind of fell in love in a whole new way, in a more mature, a more informed, less tied to social expectations and baggage. And we've gotten to create a relationship that works for us without worrying about what everybody is expecting around us. You know, the kids are older, they need us less, they want us around a lot less. And I'll talk a little bit about, in another video, about my concern about us becoming so close to the exclusion of our kids, who hopefully don't care, but at the same time I do care, but that'll be another topic. So slowly over the last couple of months, we have continued to explore and be open and be curious and be adventurous, both in the bedroom and outside of the bedroom. And in the next video, I'll talk a little bit more about being intentional, showing up for each other every single day, making the commitment to our relationship to each other every single day, and how important that is to us, and how we do our weekly check-ins to make sure, like I talked about in the last video, that those chasms of discontent or miscommunications or misunderstandings, that we don't get to that point, because it's so easy to do. So thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to share this. Once again, I know it makes Finn totally uncomfortable, but if we don't start talking about these things and normalizing them, I think we all feel incredibly uncomfortable and think that we're the only ones suffering from or experiencing what it is that we're experiencing. Zeke and I can't do a, erase, rewind back to fix what we've done in the past, but what we can do is really build a truly loving future with each other, and for those around us. And I know we are totally gross to the kids. Finn, yeah, Finn's just shaking their head because they're like, oh, you guys are kind of gross. But I'm happy that we're gross and in love with each other again. And it sounds sappy and gross, but you know what? To each his own. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And in the next video, I'll talk a little bit more about being intentional in our weekly check-ins. So with that, take some risks, kind of like this video, let go of perfection, kind of like everything in our lives, and above all else, have some fun.